All right, apparently I'm live. And by I mean we. We're live. Let's do some ranking today. All right, today, I should probably actually pull up my ranking so that people know when they join later that yes, we are in fact ranking stuff. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Share screen. Share screen. Share screen. There we go. All right, so this is what we're ranking. Let's see if I can... Yeah, I just put myself down in the corner. So basically, I've got every series. All right, now, well, and I got to back up. I've got every series that we've done on the Legendarium, as far as I could tell. I went back through our archive and wrote down every series. Now, there were some comments in Discord when I announced this topic about, where we would rank certain individual books. I did not list any books that were not. Okay. How should I put this? I didn't list any individual books that we did. Some of those individual books are part of series, but if we only did one of those books, then I didn't put it down. The closest I came to something like that would be probably Discworld, where I think we've done 4. I want to say 4, maybe only 3 or 4 Discworld books. So it's not like we've done the entire series, but we've done enough of them that I feel like we've dipped into that series enough. All the rest of them, whether it's the Expanse or Narnia or Prydain, Mistborn, whatever. These are ones that we've done a few of. Okay, so. So exactly. No Princess of Mars then. Exactly. So those are the rules. I like I said, I went through and counted up a bunch of this stuff, and excuse me, man, it's gonna take a minute to get back into live streaming. I went through and counted. I did list all of the individual books that we've covered. I went pretty quick, so I'm sure I missed a few, but by my count, we've done 43 books that were not part of a series, or that we didn't do as part of a series. Okay, does that make sense? So for instance, like I didn't put Ender's Game on here, even though we have covered Ender's Game, but we haven't done the Ender series, right? So I put... What's another good example? A Wizard of Earthsea, same thing. We've done the first book, but we haven't done the rest of Earthsea. We haven't done all of the Robin Hobb, whatever that cycle is called, but we have done the Farseer Trilogy. So I put the Farseer Trilogy on there. Does that make sense? So those are kind of the rules for what we're going for today. So I'll say hello and answer a couple questions, and then we'll get back into it. Going to be chatting from mobile for a bit. Shoe pastry needs intermittent watching. Of course it does. I mean, it needs constant care and attention. This is, tell me that Bake Off is back on without telling me that Bake Off is back on. I think you just did. I haven't started yet, by the way. I'm going to start it with my family here pretty soon. Okay, I better finish my juice. And for today's purposes, it's juice. All right. Let's see. Howdy. So Josh, hello. Murph, hello. 1976 has to be the year of birth, right? We were debating this on the last episode, but I'm going with year of birth on that one. I'm going to be working on my other computer while you have one of my longtime favorite Twitch casters calls it premium background noise. This is your premium background noise for the day while you're working on your other computer. Lord of the Rings in the top spot. Everything else below it is we'll get there. We'll get there. All right. Is that really all the series we've done? That's 22. Was it 22? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 series. I feel like that's a lot. Especially when you think about like Dresden. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess I can blow that back up for you. Like Dresden is 17 books, I want to say. We've got 5 books here, 5 books, seven books in Narnia. Who am I? Time is a flat circle. 5 books, 5 or 6 in Dune. It just gets out of hand. 15 books in the Wheel of Time, 15 of the biggest books you've ever read in your life. Anyway, point being, like 22. I split it out. Somebody else can maybe do a count. I tried to count not how many books are actually in the series, but how many of the books in the series we've covered. So I think we haven't quite covered all of the Red Rising. But anyway, I counted it out, and it came out to 107 books on this list, and we're just doing it by series. So how dare you? How dare you? Let's see. Let's see. Is this thing on? Yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, Bradster, I'm afraid it is. All right. Yeah, of all the things I needed to know, this was pretty low on the list, but I'm putting it up there for everybody. All right, there we go. Yeah, it only seems small by one cover per series. There you go. Oh, yeah. You don't know me. You don't know me. Oh boy. All right. Should we get ranking? So here I've got my my covers here for all the series that we've done. I've got the standard tiers S, and for those unfamiliar, I'm sure most of you are familiar. I think this is the Japanese grading system. So S being like a superior grade, and then it goes A, B, C, D. And then I don't have an F category. The D will serve as our like fail category, which I doubt we'll use. I haven't really thought through this beforehand. We're really doing this live, but I doubt we'll use the D category much, if at all. But NEI is not enough information because there are some of these series that either I wasn't on at all for the podcast, and so I haven't read it, or I wasn't on it for the podcast, and I've read part of it, but not all of it. So if I feel like, okay, there's something I just can't make a judgment call on, then I will ask you for help in trying to decide where something should go. But I may just stick it in the not enough information category. But I also I have it in order of when we covered it. Okay, so the last series that we covered was the Prydain Chronicles, which, some of you might be like, oh my gosh, you just spent 11 episodes doing the Silmarillion. Well, the Silmarillion is one book, so it didn't get to make this this list. And, we start with the Lord of the Rings, and again, some of you might be like, well, hang on, the Lord of the Rings isn't 3 books. That's only 1 book, technically, according to Tolkien. That's true, but it was published as 3, so we're counting it. Yep, premium background content. That's what we're all about here, Jonas. Absolutely. Do I have a link to it for you to do yours later? I don't know. Somebody tell me how to do it. I don't use this very often. Oh. Where's what happened? Oh, okay, good. Oh, okay. Well, it reset my order. Oh well, I do have my order elsewhere, so we can kind of we can still do it in order. You just won't see it in order. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's start with the Lord of the Rings. It's very, very simple. S tier, Lord of the Rings, God tier series. We started with it for a reason. I'm obsessed with it for a reason. It's not just there will be some on here that I rank a certain way for nostalgic reasons. And certainly the nostalgia is high with the Lord of the Rings, but I hope it's clear at this point that I don't just love it because I've always loved it. It really is worthy in my mind of the admiration that I have for it. So that one's a very easy S tier. And as I go through, if anything else makes an S tier, I will order it within the tiers. So it will be a ranking, not just a tier list, but it will be a ranking left to right of top to bottom within that tier. Okay. So let's see. And you've done Lord of the Rings twice? Yes. Done Lord of the Rings twice. There you go. I see what you did there. Nice. Okay. Yeah, we covered it twice, but no, I'm not going to put it on there twice. All right. So next up, Mistborn Era 1. Where are you? Mistborn Era 1. So, obviously with something like Lord of the Rings, I was able to find a cover that's just the Lord of the Rings, right? The whole 6 books, 6-book series. With Mistborn, that doesn't really exist. So I just grabbed the first cover. This was like the paperback cover back in, 2007, 8, whenever it was. This was actually the first cover that I read. Mistborn. Okay, well, let's talk about Mistborn. Where should it go? And this, by the way, this is Mistborn Era 1. I also have Mistborn Era 2 on there. I do consider those two distinct series. So Mistborn Era 1, and we'll get to Era 2 in a little while. Mistborn Era 1. I'm tempted to put this in the S tier, for my own nostalgia. It's very important to me, and I do think it's incredibly good. But I have to acknowledge that the Mistborn trilogy as a whole, when you take the entire trilogy as a whole, it does have some pacing issues. I don't think it has the same pacing issues that are often talked about. The Well of Ascension, I think, is actually a fascinating book for almost entirely from front to back. I love the Well of Ascension, but it does, the Well of Ascension does get bogged down in a couple of places. I think that is fair, although it is overblown. But Hero of Ages, I think, doesn't get talked about enough for how bogged down that plot gets in the kind of the second act of the book. It slows down considerably. And so while the ending, I still maintain that it might be the most mind-blowingly, face-meltingly cool ending of any series that we've covered. As a whole, I think I'm going to go ahead and put this in A tier because it does have a little bit of an issue with pacing. And people will talk about the writing and the dialogue, and that's all fair. Although I haven't had that much of a problem with it. Just maybe it's like expectations going in, knowing that it's not, we're not going for, it's not like Chuck Palahniuk dialogue, and it's not, we're not going for Dostoevsky levels of ruminations or whatever. So I'm willing to forgive it because I understand who the audience is. It's not trying to be more than it is. And so I'm willing to forgive some of that stuff. Okay. So next up is the Belgariad. Oh, that's right. We covered the Belgariad. Where are you, Belgariad? Yeah, there you are. We covered the Belgariad very early on. I remember recording at least one or two of these episodes in the theater that I think it was a show that, was it the show that Ryan was directing? It might have been a show that Todd was directing that Ryan was in. But I had to haul all the equipment down there to the theater so that we could record like right after they were done with rehearsal, because it was pretty late at night. Anyway, 5 books, David Eddings, the Belgariad. There's a lot of retroactive controversy around, David Eddings and what a creeper he was. And I like, at this point, it's interesting. I guess I care about it to a certain extent, but when it comes to the enjoyment of this series, I don't really care about that very much. The Belgariad, this one is, it's like, I think of the Belgariad as, it's the thing that pops, okay, here we go. It's the thing that pops into my head when people talk about how fantasy was kind of stuck in a rut for a while, through the the 80s especially, and kind of into the 90s, it seemed to be stuck in this rut of medieval European swords and sorcery, kind of Dungeons and Dragons style adventures. And that obviously that wasn't true of the entire genre of fantasy, but this is like very emblematic of that time in fantasy. And so it's kind of, it was a cool thing to read from a historical perspective. I didn't have the same kind of attachment, obviously the nostalgic attachment that Ryan had, but I did enjoy it. I had a good time with it. It is a lot of fun, but it's not that memorable or that well crafted. I'm going to go B on this, but let me know if let me know if you think I'm wrong on that. I'm not trying to be unfair, ranking it a little lower. I know it's a classic, but it's one of those ones. It's like there are classics and classics. Belgariad is kind of like a classic among people who read a lot of fantasy during a certain period of time, but it's like in 50 years, is anybody gonna remember the Belgariad? I don't think so. I think Mistborn has a better chance, actually, especially with the Cosmere as a whole. I don't know. Maybe that's an unfair thing to say about the Belgariad. I could be wrong, but that's my impression. Let's see. I got a question for you. What reading level are these books? Are they easy to read? Yeah, some of them are. The Belgariad is very easy to read. Mistborn is easy to read. The Prydain Chronicles, this one right here, that's a kids series. That's really easy to read. Butcher's easy. Who else is really easy? Oh, Steelheart would be an easy read. I haven't read all of Red Rising, but I feel like that it's easy to read. It's just if you don't know a lot of, like Greek mythology and that sort of stuff, there will be things that go over your head, but it's simple. Skyward, easy to read. Okay. Oh yeah. It's the most stereotypical fantasy with every trope you can stuff in it. It worked and it was good. Yeah, there you go. That's a wonderfully pithy way to describe the Belgariad. Stereotypical fantasy, tons of tropes. It worked. It was good. Yeah, I think B tier is safe. All right, what's next? The Sword of Shannara trilogy. This one is really this one is very much nostalgic for me. First kind of serious fantasy that I read as a kid. Now, how good is it? And how are we ranking these? Are we ranking these purely based on how good, like what the quality of it is? Or can I include my nostalgia in there? I think I can. Because this is my list, right? So this is me ranking the stuff that we've done. Not trying to I'm not trying to do the Rolling Stone top 100 albums of all time or something like that. This is just me ranking the stuff that we've covered. And with the Sword of Shannara, I get, and a lot of you have heard me say this before, I get a lot of the complaints about the derivative nature of that first book, of the Sword of Shannara. There are major things about it that you can point to and be like, derivative. Totally fair. But there's a lot about it that you can point to and say original. And that was really fun, and different. And it was reasonably well written. I'm trying to think back. So that first book, it was definitely a first novel. It wasn't perfect and polished. It was too long. Then you get into Elfstones, and things really, he got so much better from book 1 to book 2, just in terms of from an authorial perspective. I like the story of the Sword of Shannara, probably because it echoes the Lord of the Rings so heavily. I like the story of the Sword of Shannara quite a bit. The story of Elfstones is different, and it's good, but the pacing and the adventure, the excitement, the danger, the terror that you have in the Elfstones is is it's all ratcheted way up. And then in Wish Song, book 3, I still maintain it's a remarkable book. It's very it turns up the knobs on the emotional scale quite a bit. So Wish Song went. So I guess point being, like, I think it started out stronger than people remember, and it kept getting stronger through the trilogy. This one, I'm gonna put this in the A tier because I am gonna, like I said, I'm gonna include my nostalgia in this. I'm not gonna apologize for that. This is my list. The Sword of Shannara, it is not an S tier. It's not like a God tier, but it's. I think it's really good, and I think it's better than people's memories give it credit for. All right, what's next? Mistborn Era 2. This one. Ooh, Mistborn Era 2. That's going S tier. The question is where. Okay. Should it go closer to Mistborn Era 1, or is it behind the Sword of Shannara? I might rework the order on this, but I kind of like it right here. It's A tier. It's really good. This is Brandon. Finally, like, he's in the groove as an author. There's no more first book or first series syndrome. He's had a lot of practice with his own stuff and then with the Wheel of Time. And he is kind of firing on all cylinders at this point. And so I prefer the aesthetic and the story of Mistborn Era 1 quite a bit. But the writing and most, not all, but most of the character work in Era 2 is better. So they do kind of belong together. They're kind of two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways for me. Yeah, I'm gonna put them right there. Okay, yeah, a lot of people like Era 2 better than Era 1. And by the way, I am gonna pop over. I'll look at the comments every now and then. But I'm gonna miss most of what you guys say. I apologize for that. Let's see. Terry Brooks is a pretty cool guy from the Author Talk I recently watched. Yeah, he's a very cool guy. I got to meet him a few years ago. Little Red and I we are gonna try to get him on for an author shelf, but the dude is getting very old. He is very old. He does still do appearances. He was just at Rose City Comic Con in Portland. He still does Emerald City, but he's old and. I would love to get him on for an author shelf. He is an incredibly cool guy, but I would understand if he was just like, you know what, that phase of my career is over, and I'm not going to do that. Like, that's okay. So, I wrote the same book 30 times. Somehow nobody's caught me. Is that what he said? I know that's what a lot of people think. It's not quite true, but it's It's fair. I did peter out on the Shannara series as a whole, but I'm just talking about the original trilogy. Anyway, sorry. Mistborn Era 2, a lot of people like it more than Era 1. I think that's fair. It just kind of, like I said, I like the aesthetic in Era 1. I like the story better. But I think it's totally fine if you like Era 2 better. Do you count the unpublished Era 2 book? I'm not. That's a great question because I did beta read that book, but I can honestly say when I was talking about this, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about the published works. So no. Hard to rank Era 2 unless you're an advanced reader. Like I said, I wasn't really thinking about it. You guys will have to let me know what you think of the ending. I guess I'll have to let you know what I think of the ending because he could have reworked some stuff since the version that I read. Okay. All right. Where did I stop reading Shannara? I think I got like 100 pages into Bearers of the Black Staff, and I was like, I got distracted. It wasn't like, okay, I'm done, and I put it down. It was just like, oh, something else came up, and I never got back to it, and and then I realized that 2 years later, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm done with Shannara. So, Jafu says Era 2 is better. Yeah. Try to get Jafu to spill some beans on that, because I'm not going to do it. Okay, so let's move on. We've got Mistborn Era 2. Next up, oh, that's right. We did the Reckoners. We've got a couple Brandon things coming up. We've got the Reckoners series, and then the Stormlight Archive. That must have been our year of Sanderson when we were doing all this. Excuse me. All right. So the Reckoners, this is non-Cosmere YA Brandon Sanderson. Started with Steelheart. What was it? It was Steelheart, and then Firefight, and then Calamity. All right. This is one of the most frustrating series I've ever read because it was so good for 2 books. And then it was okay for most of a 3rd book. And then the ending was so bad that I continue feeling some level of disgust toward the entire series because of how bad I thought the ending was, which is, total personal preference. I'm sure a lot of people like the ending, and I'm not going to argue with them about that. It did not work for me at all. Which wouldn't have been so hard if I didn't love the series so much up to that point. I thought the first book, and I've said this before, the intro to Steelheart, the first book in the series, is one of the most effective prologues I think I've ever read. And it's in a YA book, and so it's not with high flown poetic language. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. It's pretty violent. It's kind of terrifying in a way, but it does the most effective job at bringing the story forward, telling you who your main character is, telling you, setting up the villain, the world, I guess, then the powers that exist in this world. And, I should say the villains. And yeah, I guess the villain himself. Anyway, so it's so effective. It's so visceral. I love that. So it ended as weakly as it began strongly. So the ending made me want to make it a C, but I'm actually going to put it in the B category ahead of Belgariad, because I do think it's still worth reading, as a great example of YA fun writing. And and there are things. Some of the humor in it is, if it doesn't quite jive with your style, like that, that's fine. But it worked for me. Oh boy! All right. Do we have any mods in the chat? Because I don't have my YouTube app open. Somebody go kick all these bots out, because that's upsetting and stupid. All right. I didn't think it was bad. I've decided you're all wrong. Well, there you go. All right. Thank you for blocking the bots. I appreciate that. All right, let's talk about the Stormlight Archive in a briefer time than it deserves. The Stormlight Archive. This is okay. Actually, the placeholder. Don't worry, just a placeholder. Although in a way, not much of a placeholder, because where was it? Hard to rank Mistborn. Hard to rank Mistborn Era 2 unless you're an advanced reader. I kind of feel it's a similar thing with the Stormlight Archive. It's hard to know for sure exactly where it's going to sit. And I don't mean until we get 10 books. I don't think we need all 10 books. I think we need him to finish the first 5, because that's going to be, according to him, it's going to be a set, defined, beginning, middle, end story. And then, the story of Roshar will continue in 6 through 10. But those first 5 books, I think, will be, can be judged discreetly. We just need that 5th book, which I haven't read yet. Nobody's read yet, except, Brandon and a few people close to him, I'm sure. So it's hard to say for sure. But from what we have, this is so good. It's so freaking good. I can't put it in God tier yet, in that S tier, until we get that ending. But I am going to put it at the front. However I can. I'm going to put it at the front of the line on the A tier, on a provisional basis. This is, I said that Era 2, Mistborn Era 2 was Brandon starting, like his engine is starting to hum. He's really working here. And then this is Brandon in his, in his final form, so to speak, right? This is final boss Brandon writing, but we need that ending. We need him to stick that ending for book 5 before I can put this in the S tier. I hope that's fair. I know there are a lot of Stormlight, junkies in here, so. Let's see. I just wish the dialogue wasn't. Oh, is that in? Oh man, there are a lot of bots around here. Let's see. Sanderson makes me fall asleep. Yeah, not everything is for everybody. We're gonna get to some titles in this list that other people love so much, and I have a hard time with. So I think that's totally fair. Okay, we got to keep moving. I could respond to everybody, but we got to keep moving. We're already a half hour into this. My goodness. Okay, so that's the Stormlight. The Wheel of Time. All right, the Wheel of Time. Where are you? There you are. The Wheel of Time. Look, I'm going to keep this very simple. We're going S tier. Not because it's perfect, but for 3 reasons. First of all, it's really, 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 really good. Second of all, it had a lot of impact across the genre. And has been adored by millions for decades now. And number 3, because I love it. So, like I said, sometimes my nostalgia factor is going to come into play here, and this one definitely does. I have my issues with some of the ending, but not huge ones. Just, quibbles, frustrations. And I have my frustrations with like book 10, but on the whole, S tier, definitely. Chronicles of Narnia. Oh boy. Chronicles of Narnia. Where are we going to put you? Is that an A tier or is that a B tier? It's B. If it's B tier, it's definitely at the front of the queue on B tier, if it is. It's really delightfully done, though. I think the only issue with the Chronicles of Narnia for me, or I should say the only major issue, is that it did go on for too many books. Like, this would have been really effective as like 3 or 4 books. Excuse me. If we'd had The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and the Last Battle, or is that what it was called? Yeah, like nobody remembers the Silver Chair. That's not it. So it's a little messy that way. Like, he just kind of wrote more adventures in Narnia for the sake of it. Like The Horse and His Boy, we can take that out. And not that it doesn't have things to recommend it. I'm just saying, like, as a part of the series, yeah, we can probably lift that one out. I'm gonna go ahead and put this at the front of the queue on B tier. It's really, really delightful, and it will last a long time. It's just a personal preference thing. It doesn't. I don't know. Should I put it at the back of A? Because it's really delightful. It just has issues. Yeah, we'll put it on A. I think for a lot of people, the debate would be between A and S, and it's definitely not an S tier for me. But it's really good. Maybe I don't even put, it's better than the Sword of Shannara series. Okay, yeah, we'll put it there. All right. All right. Yeah, Silver Chair, it can go. So let's see where we're at. That was Chronicles of Narnia. Kingkiller Chronicles, Pat Rothfuss. Unbelievably strong prologue to a first book, And then I reread it, not recently, like this year, but I reread it somewhat recently off the show, like not for the show. And I gotta say, story wise, it's not that interesting. It's I should, how do I put this? It's as interesting as your average fantasy book, which can be very interesting, right? But not like, it's not that interesting. The characters are well drawn. The dialogue is mostly good. Much of the writing is, people make a lot of his writing for good reason. Pat Rothfuss is he's a good stylist. That's for sure. Nobody could debate that, or at least not very effectively. But even with his styling, I think a lot is made of a few passages that carry a lot of weight for the rest of that first book. And most of that first book is just, it's your standard issue fantasy novel writing, which is fine. I like, far be it from me to say that that's a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I just, he didn't take as much care through the whole book as he did with those few passages that everybody remembers. And the second book is just not nearly as strong at all. It's still good. It's still enjoyable. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy reading it, but it's we'll talk about Broken Earth in a while, and kind of a similar thing where it's like, oh, the first book is this bolt from the blue, and it kind of shook the world a little bit. The second book does not have that same effect. And then and then we get to the third book. The drama around the third book, I did a whole episode a few years ago, how to wait for book 3, and I was kind of taking aim at all the people who were being jerks to Pat Rothfuss for not having book 3 out yet, and I've defended him for a long time from a lot of that stuff. And now with some of the latest news, and I'm not going to get into it here, but now with some of the latest news about book 3, lies, not just promises unkept, but lies and potentially fraudulent stuff going on, I'm just like, all right, I'm out. Like, you're on your own, dude. So I'm gonna put this one at the front of the B tier, because that first book, that I should say the prologue, doesn't quite carry it all the way through. So I hope that's fair. Excuse me. I saw where you placed Lord of the Rings. That's all I needed to know. Well, there you go. Where else was I going to put it? Come on. All right. Oh yeah, here you go. I enjoyed it a lot, but the drama behind the third book starting to push me away. Yeah, that's about where I'm at. It's hard to separate art from the artist at this point. Yeah, I think you and I feel similarly at this point. I don't mind him being prickly, but when he doesn't seem to have much respect for his fans. And so it's like, well, I've been trying really hard to show you a lot of respect over the years. If you're not going to respect us, why should we be respecting you? So, all right. So where are we at? That was Kingkiller Chronicles. Let's do Red Rising. Okay, Red Rising, this one, very, very simple for me. NEI, not enough information. I know a little bit about it, but I didn't participate in this series on the podcast. And there will be some other stuff, like Butcher's series, where I didn't read the whole thing, but I have read enough of it that I can kind of form an opinion. That is not the case for Red Rising. And so for me, it's going in NEI, not enough information. Sorry, everybody. If you're a huge fan of Red Rising and you want to put it in one of these tiers, let me know. Make your case in the comments. Let me know what you think about that. Okay. Where are we? Gentlemen Bastards. Oh my gosh. Another example of a book that came out and it didn't change everything. It didn't change the face of fantasy literature, but it definitely lit up the fantasy community. his writing, his dialogue, his characters in that first book, The Lies of Locke Lamora, everything was so good. That it's almost shocking how good that first book is. And when we read, I don't remember everything I said about books 2 and 3 in our coverage of it. But my recollection is vaguely that with books 2 and 3, I was frustrated. Where book 2, it kind of meanders. It like takes a hard right turn plot wise. And like, I thought we were going to be doing this kind of story, and then it just kind of veers off. And I was frustrated by that. And then we got to the third book, and this didn't work and that didn't work. And as I went back to both of those, because I've read the whole series now twice, I think. I might have read the first book 3 times, but I've read the whole series twice now. And books 2 and 3 are really good. They're really good. It's just you put them next to book 1, and they're going to be shadowed by it. So with that in mind, I'm actually, if book 2 and 3 were bad, if book 2 and 3 were bad, I would put this lower. Like book one can't carry the entire series into an A or an S tier. But they're not bad. They're good. Like if it were just book 1, it would be S tier, but it's not. And we don't have the whole series. So for that reason, I'll put it at the end of A tier. That's kind of a provisional basis A tier. We'll see where we end up with that. Didn't I do something? Oh yeah, Era 2 was provisional as well. It was Stormlight Archive. So yeah, we're gonna put this one provisional low A tier. Presuming he continues putting stuff out. We've waited a long time, just like we did we have for book 3 of Kingkiller. We've waited a long time to continue this series. But Scott Lynch doesn't hate his fans, and that goes a long way, right? He doesn't communicate that he hates his fans. We had him on the show recently, so you got to hear a lot of the conversation that we had with him when the mics were on. And I got to chat with him a little bit with the mics off. And I don't think I'm, talking out of school when I say that his issues with anxiety, depression, I think, but definitely anxiety around, maybe not. I don't think he said anything about depression, but definitely anxiety around releasing his writing and having others read his writing. Like it's real. It is real and debilitating and very, very difficult for him. And so I'm glad that it seems like he's figuring that stuff out and working through it. And I hope we get more of that stuff. But for now, low A. Okay. So we need this tier list so we can all do it. I'll see what I can do. I don't know, like maybe can I save or download it? I'll see if there's a way for me to share it out. You can all do it. I don't, like I said at the beginning, I don't really use this very often. So if anybody wants to send me instructions, you're welcome to. Okay, let's move on to Dresden Files. That was the next one that we started on the show. Dresden Files, it's kind of not enough information, but not quite. Because I have read 3.5 books. I've read 3.5. So what's the third one? Was it Blood Rights? And then I started the fourth one. I haven't made it through the fourth one. How should I put it? It's not what I was promised. So I was told, like, okay, once you get done with book 3, you'll be in. Like once you're into book 4, everything changes and like you'll be sucked in. But books 1 through 3, whatever, don't pay attention to those. Those barely count. And my experience isn't that. I got into book 4. I got like halfway through it or whatever it was, and kind of like something else. I can't remember what the other one that I was talking about. I didn't just like. I didn't throw it away in disgust or something. I got distracted. I think I was doing an audiobook on a lengthy car ride. And then the car ride was over. I was halfway done with book 4, and I never got around to getting back to it. Like it just didn't suck me in, right? But books 1 through 3, I thought were a lot of fun. I really enjoyed them. I thought they were fun, and not that they were perfect, not that they were amazing, but I thought they were a lot of fun. This one, it's definitely not a D tier. It's not a C tier for me. I think it's going to go in B. The question is where. I think I'll put it. Yeah, let's put it right in front of Reckoners, because I did have a lot of fun with those first 3 books. 3.5 isn't representative of the series. That's totally true. And let's see, what is it? That's NEI. Yeah, that may be true. But the thing is, it's a bit like if you tell somebody, hey, you need to watch Game of Thrones. It gets really good in season 3. You're asking someone to watch 20 hours of a show to get to where you think it picks up. I'm picking that out of thin air. You know, pick any show you want. I'm just trying to draw a parallel here. If you're asking me to read 3 novels so that I understand what's going on, so that by the time, or 6 novels, what was it? Somebody said, there it is. Yeah, Nano Tyrannus said, for me, it clicked around books 7 to 8. If you're asking me to read 6 books so that it will get good, that drops it down the tier list. Just that by itself. It may be amazing, but if it's going to take 6 books to get amazing, that's going to drop it down the list. So just the way it is. So that's I'm not trying to be unfair to it. In fact, I'm trying to express that I actually quite liked the first 3 books. It just didn't like suck me in the way that people promised. Like book 4 didn't suck me in the way people promised it would. And I'll get back to it. Don't worry. I'll finish, or at least I'll continue the series, I should say. I can't promise to finish it, but I'll continue the series. Just haven't yet. Okay, where are we? Farseer Trilogy. Oh boy, this should be a good one. Farseer Trilogy is, there we go, started with Assassin's Apprentice. Legendary among the Legendarium community, and in my own mind, for unbelievably unmet expectations. Like, I don't know, that's a poorly phrased way of putting it. But the expectations were somewhere. This book is light years away from where my expectations were, and it is one of the that is partly because this is one of the worst titled books ever. Yes, the main character does get apprenticed to an assassin, but story-wise, that does not mean what it's supposed to mean based on the title. So, anyway, so I was super frustrated with it. By the time we got to the end of it, I was really warming to the series. By the time we got to the end of the trilogy, I should say. The first book I was really frustrated by. By the time we got to the end of the series, I was really warming to it. And since I finished it, I've warmed to it quite a bit more. So no, don't worry. I'm not going to put it in C tier. Calm down. Jafu says D. Interesting. So here, I'll put it down there for a second. Hob wanted to call it King's Bastard or something like that. Yeah, and it's a frustration among many authors that they don't have the say that they wish they did over the title. I'm sure a lot of authors are happy to have the help of the publisher to come up with a title for their book. It's tough. It's difficult to do. But this one really, really missed the mark. That being said, the trilogy as a whole, I'm gonna put this one. I'm gonna put this high. No, do I do low? No, do I? For me, okay. For me, right now, I'm gonna go high B tier. Okay. On a reread, I expect this to go higher based on my memory. Is that fair? I think that's fair. again, this I have to put my experience with the book into my ranking, right? And yeah, on a reread, I would expect to put this up somewhere near Gentlemen Bastards. Okay. Yeah, I really don't like Fitz. I get that. I don't like Fitz either, to be honest. I don't like the main character, but sometimes that's okay. Like one of my favorite TV series of all time is Breaking Bad. I'm not alone in this. This is a lot of people's favorite TV series of all time. You should not like that main character. You should not be cheering for the main character. They kind of trick you into cheering for him, right? But my point just being, you don't have to like the main character to enjoy a book. And I don't like Fitz, but that doesn't mean that his story isn't worthwhile, right? So, but that's fair. New title: Boy Meets Emotional and Physical Pain. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, where are we? The Cytoverse, Skyward, C tier. Sorry, Brandon. I know he had a lot of hopes for this to be the next great, like Hunger Games style YA sensation. It just I don't think it was good enough for that. I just don't. I don't think it was good enough. Okay, all right, there we go. One of the less memorable things he's ever written that I've read. There, how about that? Like Discworld, Terry Pratchett, Discworld. We have read, I think for the show, we've read 3 of these. I think I've read 4 or 5 of them at this point. And I have absolutely no reason to think that as I read the rest of the series, it would disappoint me in any way. I mean, Terry Pratchett said in the past that, like, yeah, the first book, yeah, not my best effort. Start here, start there. Don't start with book 1. That's fair. Now this gets into something interesting, because I was saying with Jim Butcher, don't make me read 6 books to get, like, don't promise me it gets good at book 7, right? I mean, you can promise me that just won't sway me. It won't make me want to read it. You could argue something about Discworld. With Discworld, he has said himself, like, the first book or 2, not my best effort, start elsewhere. But that's different because it's not a linear progression that you have to work through to understand, step by step by step. You can dip in here and there into different eras in Discworld and with different characters. And it's not right. It doesn't have that linear narrative. And so it's easier to dip in and out of and skip that first or second book. So that's why it doesn't fall prey to the same thing that Butcher's series does. I'm going to actually put this one just up in front of Narnia. No, you know what? I think I'm going to actually put this in front of Mistborn. And I don't think Brandon would mind that at all. It's that what I've read has been astoundingly good. Not only some of the funniest writing that I've ever read, if you're into his style of British humor, not only is it some of the funniest stuff I've ever read, but it's always thought-provoking. It's always interesting. He is the best level 2 author that we have read on the podcast, full stop. End of story. As far as socio-political ruminations, discussions, he's the best that we've ever read on the show. So, okay. All right. There's characters you aren't necessarily supposed to like and characters whose thoughts and dialogue are nails on a chalkboard to you. Fair. Totally fair. Absolutely fair. That's how I feel about Lift in the Stormlight Archive. Just can't. I can't. And if somebody said that about Steelheart and the humor in Steelheart, I would totally understand. For whatever reason, it worked for me. But like on reflection, if I were to try to describe the humor in The Reckoners, it would sound awful to me. But somehow it worked. So no, I think that's totally fair, Jaffu. Let's see. Where are we? We got it. Oh my gosh, we've been going for almost an hour. And we're coming up on the end here. That was, what did I just do? Discworld. Dune. Sorry, everybody. It's so easy to put off. It's just so easy to put off. I keep telling myself that I'm going to do it for the show. But why? Well, we've already had the blue team do it. I guess at this point, I'm kind of waiting for part 2 of the movie to come out. I could put it somewhere just based on its reputation, but I don't think that would be really fair. And I would want to judge it for the entire series, like I've done with these others. For the most part. Okay, Butcher accepted. But I would want to judge it for as much of the series as I was able to read. I'll put it that way. But I haven't started it yet. That's not fair. I've read like 50 pages years ago, and some squirrel walked by and I chased that. So, so Dune. Yeah, Dune. It's in the not enough information category, just for me personally. So I'll get there one day. It's just at this point, it's like I said, it's really easy to put off. There are so many other things to read, and Jack Butler will, he can come to my house and tar and feather me later. All right, Night Angel, Brent Weeks' Night Angel trilogy. If you've been following the show for a while, you probably know my thoughts on this. I freaking love Brent. Brent is such a good dude. He's a friend of the show. He's a friend of mine. I consider him a friend. And he has written some really good stuff. The original Night Angel trilogy, not one of them. It has a lot of bright spots. It has a lot of what I think, what some of his strengths are. They start peeking through, but it doesn't land for me. And part of it is kind of like I was talking about with Assassin's Apprentice, the unmet expectations. You kind of have this expectation for what the series is going to be and where these characters are going to go. And it's okay to change course and, to surprise the reader. It's good to surprise the reader, right? But it's almost like the series starts as one thing, and then by the time you get into book 3, it has evolved into something completely different and not what you're hoping for in book 1. And there's a lot of other stuff that, I'd be like, all right, Brent, let's cool it with the taxidermied prostitutes or whatever. Like there's some stuff in there. I'm like, all right, content issues. So as much as I love Brent, I'm going to put the Night Angel in C. There's a lot, it's not going in D because there is still some really good stuff in there, some good character work. But it's got a lot, I think, to say, all right, we need a better effort out of you, Brent. And we got that with the Lightbringer series. This one, 5 books versus 3 for Night Angel. Well, 4 pretty soon, huh? Lightbringer series for me much better on his part. Did I miss one? Green Team did Hyperion. Did they do a whole series? I think they did one book. Oh yeah, this one, Realm of the Elderlings or Hyperion Cantos. No. Okay. It's an abrupt elevation of scale from book 2 to book 3. Yeah, absolutely. It's mind-boggling what he did with that. Okay, let's get back to this. Lightbringer. Lightbringer has some of the best character work that I've ever come across. The characters and their relationships in Lightbringer are among my favorite that I've ever read. I know that Kip doesn't care to share his name with Kip, but I love the character of Kip in these books. I would put this, really, really high, except that not everything about the ending worked for me. I'll tell you what did work about the ending was that I've always appreciated that Brent went for it. He had what he wanted his ending to be, and he went for it. And I'm sure that he was told by beta readers and editors and whoever else. I'm sure he was told, hey, people are going to hate this. Or some people are going to hate this. And Brent stuck to his guns. And I in this case, it's different than like with Night Angel. It was a completely different book or a completely different story by the end of it. With this one, it didn't suffer from that, but he did make some decisions at the end that I know drove a lot of people crazy. They didn't all work for me, but they didn't all not work for me. And I really appreciated that he went for it. So I am going to put this on the strength of the series as a whole. I'm going to put this up top. Sorry, Kip. I know that you're going to hate that. Let's put him up here just under Narnia. I think, should he be above Narnia? Yeah, whatever. It's close enough. Yeah, it's somewhere around there in the A tier. I think if Scott Lynch continues to write well for that series, it could leap the Lightbringer series, but we'll see. All right, where are we? Oh, we've only got 3 more left to go. The Expanse. I've watched the first season, and I haven't watched anything else since that. The first season was fun, and that's all I got. I haven't read the rest of it, or I haven't watched the rest of it, and I haven't read any of it. So, so you guys can quibble about that. So, all right, it's above Narnia. Jalfu, do you not like Narnia? I'm not sure if I've ever heard about that for you. Let's see, low B for you, Lightbringer, low B. Yeah, that's fair. Oh, or are you talking about the Expanse? I'm not sure. Okay, let's get to the 5th season, or I should say the what's it called? The Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. This one, I'm actually gonna put this one. Where should we go? It's gonna go in the A tier. I'm gonna put it right here. Do I put it a little higher than Mistborn? It might deserve to go a little higher than Mistborn. I could be talked into it pretty easily, probably. I'll leave it there for now. Another one of those, like books 2 and 3 are fine. They're good even, but in the shadow of book 1, they are like sorely lacking. I actually think book 3 isn't that good. It's fine. There's nothing like no glaring major huge issues with it, but it's only fine. It's not that good. But book 1 is so staggeringly good. It's such a work of genius that in this case it does carry the other 2 books with it. Like it's one of those it is one of those series. It's one of those books. Book 1 is among the most shockingly competent, wonderful things I've ever read. So well written. So there you go. Definitely higher than Mistborn, not higher than Pratchett. I think that's totally fair. Like I said, it wouldn't take much to convince me. If we're going on, like, again, I have to put my own feelings and my own nostalgic reactions to things in there, and it's hard for something to beat Mistborn. It really is. And the 5th season, there's also the rereadability level of it, where it's like this is something I can come back to a lot. 5th season, I'm not going to come back to that a lot. It's a tough read. It's not an easy, fun read. But I will say one of the things I appreciate the most about Broken Earth is what was I just reading recently? Oh, we did The Last Unicorn. It's an Author Shelf episode that we just recorded. We did that with Shannon McGuire, so that one will be up soon. And I was saying, somebody was saying on that episode about The Last Unicorn how it was kind of nice to have characters who were older and had to, like, It wasn't like a plucky young teen just off the farm, going on their adventure. It was different than that. I love that here too in Broken Earth, where it's like it's this middle-aged black woman who, like, this is not what I'm used to having to put myself, a character I have to put myself in the shoes of. It's not what I'm used to, and I really appreciated having a different protagonist. So that was a huge strength of that book for me. Really enjoyed it. Okay. Seeing Brent Weeks higher than Hobb give me strength. That's totally, yeah, look, that's fair. You're not wrong. I was saying earlier, I love this comment so much. I was saying earlier that with Robin Hobb, I expect this to go higher on a reread. This is based on my first read and the unmet expectations I had after reading, especially the first book. But after I read it again, it'll go higher. I assume I could read it again and decide that I really actually hate it, but I doubt that'll happen. Okay. Last one is the Prydain Chronicles. Oh my gosh, you guys, the Prydain Chronicles, obviously very nostalgic for me if you heard me talk about it on the show. So it's gonna get a high ranking. The question is where. This is some of the best young reader writing that I've come across ever. In terms of, like, my 9-year-old is reading the Book of 3 right now, and he's getting it. He doesn't get all of the moral nuances or whatever, but he is understanding it. He's able to follow it, even with some of the more intentionally archaic language that he throws in there. And you got the whimsical characters, and I remember him running up the stairs a few days ago going, Dad, how do you pronounce this? This is the weirdest name I've ever seen. And it was Flute or Flam, like, it's so much fun, and it's shockingly deep. And oh boy, somebody wants me to do spoilery something or other. Okay. It's shockingly deep. It's a lot of fun. It's quick. It's easy. It's accessible to kids. But it's powerful for adults. I'm gonna put this one ahead of Mistborn and below Pratchett. There we go. All right, you guys, that's it. So there's our list. I know that, yeah, there are going to be complaints on here about like Hobb being so low. That's, again, totally fair. But this is my ranking. I'm actually a little surprised that only 2 of them made it into S tier. But I feel like I gave my reasons for why the rest of them didn't, why these didn't make it into S tier. I've got my reasons. Let's see. Any new series? Let's blow me up a little bit. Any new series on the docket? Yes. We're doing Joe Abercrombie. I think that one is slated to come out in 17 days. Yeah. So 2.5 weeks from now, we should have our first Joe Abercrombie episode out. I need to start reading that one. I did get like 2 chapters into it a year ago or whatever it was. But I didn't really, I couldn't, for reasons. I couldn't keep reading it. It's not about it. It was about other outside reasons. So yeah, we are doing Joe Abercrombie. We'll do that first trilogy. Let's see. I gave my reasons. Could bump Stormlight Archive up, but I very well may. If he sticks the landing on book 5, it's up there. It might even leapfrog the Wheel of Time. We'll see. Powder Mage. Oh gosh. It's funny. I have 2 copies of the Powder Mage trilogy, and I haven't read it yet. I read the first few chapters. It was around the same time, actually. But that was when I was in my dark phase. I was pretty depressed. I had no motivation to do anything at all, ever. And reading was a very difficult chore. And that's when I picked up Powder Mage, and that's when I picked up the Blade itself, and neither of them worked out getting me out of my funk. So at some point, yes. By the way, I said I have 2 copies out. I have a soft cover trilogy of Powder Mage. And I also, he was selling, he had 1 hardcover signed trilogy, and I was like, yeah, I'll take that. So I bought that. Anyway, good. I'm glad you guys are excited. Let's see. You still on here? I thought you'd be done by now. Nah, well, no. What can I say? If there's one thing I know how to do, if I have one talent in this world, it's not shutting up. It's not necessarily talking, but it's at least not shutting up. Need a few more Pratchett books to get to? Absolutely. Need a few more Pratchett books to get to. That's possible. If the Discworld series maintains the level that it has for the 4 or 5 books that I have read, if it does that for the rest of the series, like, yeah, that's probably an S tier. It's really, really, really good. Hitchhiker's Guide we have not covered on the show. You're talking about stuff coming up. Yeah, that would be a fun one. I'm kind of actually with Hitchhiker's Guide. I'm kind of expecting someone to pick that one day. I don't know who or when. I'm expecting somebody to pick that for Author's Shelf. And so I haven't covered it for the show yet, partly just because I figure somebody's going to do it. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right. Let's see. Yes to Hitchhiker's Guide. I was like HHG did bit good. Oh, that's sad. I'm really sorry to hear about that. Oh, I missed that. I don't know where the announcement was made, but I missed that. That's too bad. I hope he's okay. I mean, I hope Brian is okay. All right. You did get some of the stronger ones, but I would say half of them are absolutely top tier fantasy. The other half is mostly very good. Let's see. Oh, some of the stronger Discworld ones. I see what you're saying. Okay. Author's Shelf would be very fun with Douglas Adams. No doubt. No doubt. I kind of, I want to get John Scalzi on the show. And it seems like he would be a really fun one to do Hitchhiker's Guide with. But you know, we let them pick the books. We don't tell them. We give them the parameters. You know, basically you've heard the spiel. It's a book that's important to you or influential to your career or just to your life or whatever. And that's about it. You know, pick a book off your shelf, something that's important to you. And you know, so it's not like we're giving them a list of, hey, here's what we think you should consider picking. It's out of the blue. Which I'm sure for some authors is frustrating. You know, it's easier if somebody gives you some prompts, right? But it has given us some delightful and unexpected reads. I remember when we had Andrew Clavin on I thought the episode was good. He made a couple comments that I was like, oh boy, you know, what are we going to do with this? So he was a little tougher one to have on. But he was a super nice guy. He was lovely to us. But the book he picked was Doomsday Book by Connie Willis. In a million years, I never would have read that book. Just like it wouldn't have come across my radar. And it's one of my favorite books that we've done for the show. And that is because, you know, I think in large part because we didn't say, hey, we'd like you to pick a book from this list of 10. It's, you know, what do you want to pull off your shelf? And people pull some stuff off there, like The Last Unicorn that we did with Sean and McGuire. We'll see what you guys think of that episode. But yeah, I had a great time reading the book. Yeah. Jonas, thanks for coming by. Let's see. It looked like you were leaving. What about a read through of the Dark Tower series? Yeah, that'd be fun. We just did my first ever King book Dreamcatcher, which, you know, a lot of people are like, really, ooh, ouch, that's your first King book. But I liked it. I had a good time. So yeah, that'd be fun. Neil Gaiman, maybe. Such a well-read guy. Chances you haven't even heard of his pick. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I'm not that widely read, as you guys are figuring out. I'm deeply read in a few areas. You know, like I can dive deep on the Lord of the Rings, the Wheel of Time, the Stormlight Archive, Mistborn. Let's see, what is there anything? Is Shannara? Yeah, like I said, I kind of gave up toward the end, but I don't think that's really required. So I'm like deeply read on a lot of things, but I'm not all that widely read, and I do not try to keep up with contemporary publishing. It's way too much. I don't have the interest in it. There are people who will read all of the nominees for this or that award, the Hugo or the Nebula or whatever. They're like, oh, okay, so those are the nominees. I'm gonna read all of them, and I don't care. I'll blow this up for just a second. Not that this is all that important, but maybe it'll be kind of interesting. One of the reasons that we got to the 5th season was that it won the Hugo Award 3 times in a row, right? All 3 books. And then people kept talking about it. They kept talking about it. So many award winners, so many like books of the week are just flash in the pan, and then nobody talks about it anymore. Nobody cares. But people kept talking about the 5th season. And so that was the indication to me that this book that had been out for, whatever it was, 5 years or 4 years at that point, I can't remember. It's like, oh, okay, there must be something there. People are still talking about this. Anyway, so yeah, I guess, sorry, that was a Legendarium tangent when you say I haven't heard of his pick. That is very likely true. I like to, all the rest of you are the butter churn, and I'm waiting for the cream to rise, or how, whatever our analogy is here. I'm butchering things. I have been talking for a while. Let's see. I'm not convinced there's a wall in Neil Gaiman's house that's not bookshelves. Yeah. What cover did you use for Pratchett and Prydain? Pratchett, I used The Truth. Sorry, it did get cut off. That was The Truth. And for Prydain, that was actually, it's a compendium. I think there was a box set, and I think this was the cover of the box set. So when there was an opportunity to get something like the Belgariad, technically this says volume 1 right there. But if there was something that was like, oh, there's like all the books in one, great, Lord of the Rings, the Prydain Chronicles, then I would use that. But otherwise, I just tried to use book 1 from whatever series it was. So, okay. Agree with the series being A tier. Yeah. It could rise if book 5 is as good as I hope. Yeah, we'll see. I'm creating a tier list for Craig. Oh, okay. Spotify added audiobooks. Yep, I saw that. I've produced a couple of audiobooks, and I need to figure out how to put them on Spotify, because if podcasts are any indication, then Spotify is going to take over audiobooks pretty soon too, just like they took over podcasts. I really dislike the U.S. mass market Pratchett covers. So little effort with the uniform color. I get that. I think I understand that, but at the same time, I like the boldness of them. They really stand out on the shelf, and that's nice. It's kind of similar when I look over to the British Harry Potters that I've got over there. I've got all the like original edition Harry Potter hardcovers. And these crazy bold blocky colors on the spines. I kind of like it. It's fun. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna call it there, And I'll see if I can export this this tier list, and you can all do your own versions of it and post it on Discord. Otherwise, let's see what else. For those of you who have stuck around, if you're not a patron, I assume quite a few of you are. If you're not a patron, maybe consider it. We just released the audio. It was an audio watch along of one of the greatest YouTube videos I've ever seen. It's this 30-minute short film called, what was it called? Somebody tell me what it was called. Kung Fury. I'd never heard of it. I think, was it Kyle that brought it to our attention, or it might have been Ryan. I can't remember. But we watched it, we laughed our heads off, and then we put it on Patreon. So consider becoming a Patreon subscriber for stuff like that, and we'll have more stuff on there, and we'll see what I can do with it. But yeah, consider doing that. Appreciate you guys hanging out for this live stream. It's been 80 minutes plus, and I'd better. Oh, that's true. And we got to listen to your recorder. True. Yeah. Sometimes I let you guys listen live to the recordings. Anyway, yeah, I'd better go before my voice completely goes. Enjoy your weekend. Monday, here, I'll tell you what, let me stop sharing that screen so that I can tell you that on Monday, we are going to release, where's today? Ooh, The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin. We did that one with Mary Robinette Kowal. So my second ever Ursula Le Guin book, that'll be coming up on Monday. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend.